Well, yes. So there's been some fairly big news. And you know what I'm like? I read between the lines. What am I hopeful for? Obviously TBC. I mean, not hopeful. We know it's coming, don't we? Hopefully. There's a new version of the client for Classic now on the PTR. Only one change. One really big change. So, spell batching. This is a big topic. Everybody's talking about it in regards to TBC. I get asked it more or less every night on the stream. Streaming most nights, Scottejaye 87 over on Twitch. Links in the description below. I've been saying all along it will get reduced massively or removed, full stop, because it won't work in arenas. So we'll have a little look at what the change is, what the proposed change is that's going to be on the that's on the PTR now, and then talk about why this is quite big. It's going to be a short video, you know. But if you want a really long video, check out the class guides that have dropped. So 2 so far. I'm editing a 3rd, which was with Crix for the Warlock. And if you're a member of the channel, clicking the join button, you can see the full unedited versions, which range normally between 2 to 3 hours long. Obviously, they're cut down massively for the edited versions on YouTube, but I don't want to flood the channel with like these massive long 3-hour videos with loads of fluff, loads of things that we say wrong, and then have to go and look up online. But you know, you can see our process that we go through if you see the unedited versions. But let's get into what this PTR is all about. So, this is straight off of WoWed. So if we have a quick look, today we've opened the WoW Classic PTR. So test version now is 1.13.7 of WoW Classic. So I'm not going to read this word for word, but basically all it's about is spell batching. So initially, and please focus on that word, initially, the spell batch window is set to 10 milliseconds on this new PTR. So it's a reduction from 400 milliseconds. So a factor of 40 this is changing by. This is huge. With the 400 millisecond window, that makes spell batching very, very noticeable for most classes. Whereas setting it to 10 milliseconds almost means that it's rarely ever going to be seen. And I say rarely because I still feel with that, even though it's only 10 milliseconds, there's still that 10 millisecond window for error. We'll call it window for error. So I think we still will see it. Now, for those of you that don't know exactly what spell batching is, so they've done it. It's basically the way the servers used to work. So originally our vanilla servers used to work where basically all of the buttons that you press, when you press your abilities, are sent to the server. And the server obviously then send them down to the characters. That's probably the most basic way to explain it. So with 400 milliseconds, that's 0.4 of a second, which means like if you was to heal a tank just under 0.04 seconds before he dies, there's still a chance that that heal won't land. So even though he received a heal, or should have received a heal, he still dies. There's loads of other little ones, that are just annoying and can't happen. The reason I'm getting into this, and you know the majority of the content I create is to do with TBC. This is for TBC, mark my words. Why now? We've gone through all the raids, we've gone through all the battlegrounds, we've gone through the honor system. Everyone who probably wants rank 14 is probably rank 14 by now. Nax has been cleared by large numbers of people. I've not looked up exactly how many because I'll be honest with you, I don't really care. But they are doing this for arenas because arenas needs to be balanced. Arenas can't have these silly nuances happening during an arena match, especially with how competitive it actually is. So in PvP, things like warriors charging, it would appear at the same time and stunning each other, mages polymorphing each other, even when it comes to interrupts. So, if you cast your kick and you're within that 0.4 of a second window, your interrupt might not even go off. And you want to leave that interrupt to as late as possible, obviously, because the longer that person, whether it's arena or even if it's PvE, the longer they're casting for, that means they're doing no damage to you. So of course you want to time your interrupt so it's right at the last millisecond. You can't really do that reliably in Classic with spell batching. So all of that will go. Now you can see, like I said initially, I like the word initially. So to me that says they want to reduce it even further or eliminate it altogether. How that would look, I don't know, but I would say that's the aim, because otherwise they would have left the initially part out. Either that, or they're seeing how it is at 10 milliseconds and then it might actually go up. We don't want it to go up, but it might go up if for some reason they can't get it right. Just my thoughts. Don't get me wrong. I don't claim to be no expert on the spell batch window, as in I understand how it works and I understand exactly the problems that arise with it, especially being at 400 milliseconds. But from a server standpoint, as in on Blizzard's end, I don't know what massive impact this drop from 400 to 10 is actually going to have. But obviously, I would suggest that everybody goes on the PTR and actually tries this out and, you know, uses the bug tool, you know, to actually report if there's anything wrong, like they're showing here. So, you know, you can open and press F6 to submit a bug on the abilities that you see problematic. That's the full extent of the PTR. There's no class balancing, there's no nothing. It's just, let's try and get rid of spell batching. Why? BlizzConline is coming, isn't it? In like a month, less than a month. They want to obviously announce TBC and probably a big time frame. So this is giving them, you know, probably because they're going to have to do some prep work. They're probably going to need a good week or two to prepare for BlizzConline, which means, you know, now they can do this spell batch testing for a couple of weeks, get some good ideas on whether it's good, whether it's bad, and then obviously at BlizzConline they probably will be more confident in releasing a schedule for TBC, not just announcing when and what's going to go on. A really interesting comment by Metagoblin, we all know Metagoblin, or hopefully we all know Metagoblin, on the stream the other night was, how good would it be if they actually gave us a few years worth of plan? So they gave us a TBC announcement and a RAF announcement at the same time. Don't know about you boys, but if that was the case, that would quite heavily sort of sway my decision on what class, because I actually want to be one class in TBC and a different class in RAF, but I think I would probably just stick with my RAF class in TBC, if that makes sense. And yeah, you guessed it, it's a druid. Now, I won't talk about the negatives of removing spell batching. I mean, because it's not negatives, it's all positive, don't get me wrong, but for some classes you might be affected a little bit more than others. Ellie Shamans, for example, you know, you can get with Elemental Mastery, you can get a couple of spells off. Now that's gonna reduce, it's gonna remove that completely, especially if it's 10 milliseconds. It's gonna remove that completely, and it's gonna affect like Hunters Feign Death. Rogues are gonna have a bit of an easier time, you know, avoiding projectiles, for example, or, you know, when spells are already in mid-air towards them when they've vanished, or if they've gouged and run away and tried to get back into stealth or something like that. You know, there's a lot of benefits that are going to come from it, but I think the majority of it, there's quite a lot in PvE, don't get me wrong, when it comes to interrupts. I think for me that's probably one of the big ones, and actually execute for warriors, that's another big one. But the majority of this is just telling me we're gearing up for arenas, which is great news, because what brings arenas? TBC. Exactly. So, as I say, this was just a quick update, just in case anyone missed this, because I genuinely feel that this is fantastic news. So, if you like the video, like, subscribe, comment. Let me know in the comments, actually, what spell batching means for you. So, like, do you think it's a good thing? You know, do you think it's a bad thing? Is there anything that you think potentially could go wrong that I've not thought about, or, you know, that no one's thought about? So, yeah, feel free to get vocal. And as I say, join the channel if you want to see unedited footage of all of these class guides that are going out at the moment. And I'll see you over on Twitch.